Hi everybody, happy Wednesday. Super excited to be here with you tonight. My name is Bev McCullough of Flamingo Toes, and I'm streaming live to Facebook in my Facebook group, the Flamingo Toes Stitch and Share Club, and over on YouTube. And we are making up the Walking on Sunshine mini quilt. So we are doing this over a 5-week time period. One tutorial or one post a week. Sorry, apparently I'm like tired or something. Also, you guys might hear in the background, it's raining quite heavily here, and okay, can hear me. All right, is that a little bit better? Can you guys hear me now? Hello, hello. Let me know if you guys can hear me now. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of wait and see and make sure that you guys can hear me. Okay, so that's a little bit better. Okay, great. All right, thank you guys. We are, it is raining crazy, and so I had turned the mic down a little bit in order to try and cut down on the rain hitting the window, but apparently I turned it down too far. So hopefully that is okay for you guys. All right, well, I'm glad to see you guys. So we are making up the Walking on Sunshine mini quilt. This is what the finished quilt looks like, and this is the one that is in my book, Make It Mini. So this is what the original quilt looks like. And this week, last week we made up our curved blocks, and this week we are going to sew them together. So here's my, I am making a couple of these so that I can show you guys all the steps. So here's my first one, all sewn up, just the quilt top, but this is the blocks that I sewed up last week, and we are gonna do that this week. So we're gonna talk about the different layouts and options, and we're gonna talk about how to get those curves to line up in the center. And so it's gonna be really fun. And you can find the quilt pattern in my book, Make It Mini. This is in my shop. I have it linked in the video description, so you can check that out. It's a really fun book. There are 13 mini quilts in this book. All of them have a little bit of embroidery to them. So you can add your embroidery if you want. You can leave it off and do some cute fussy cutting, or you can just do cute prints. It's going to be really fun. And so we are sewing through. We've already done one sew along in this book. We did what is that pattern called, you guys? You name all these things and then you can't remember what they're called. So the Spring Flowers mini quilt, this was the first one we did in the fall. You can find the tutorial for that in all the sew along videos are over on YouTube. You can find the playlist for that. And we are doing the Walking on Sunshine one. So it's really fun, and it's fun to do these together because they're a little bit shorter sew-alongs. So let me show you our schedule here. So this is the Walking on Sunshine sew-along, and so we kicked everything off on the 8th, and then last week on the 15th we sewed up our blocks. Today we are doing our block assembly, and then next week we are going to be doing the embroidering. So I'm going to talk briefly about how to transfer the design, and then how to stitch up the 3 different stitches that are in that center wreath, which are a back stitch, a satin stitch, and then French knots. So we're going to go over those 3 things, and it's going to be really fun. So I encourage you guys, you don't have to do the embroidery. It's definitely not a requirement. Of course, you can just leave your mini quilt adorable and cute without the wreath. But even if you've never done embroidery, I really encourage you to to join us next week, and we'll get you stitching those stitches. So it's going to be really fun. And then the last week we are going to go over quilting and how to quilt with embroidery and some different ideas on how to quilt your mini quilt. So that is our schedule and that's our plan. So I want to say hi to some people before we start on our giveaways. We have over on YouTube, we have Wendy's here from New Jersey, and Laura's here, Lindy's here, Kathy's here, Dawn is here. She says spring flowers is so cute. She could use a little spring today. Is it super snowy and cold? Oh, blizzards, she says, in Minnesota. I'm so sorry about that, Dawn. Please stay warm and dry. Hopefully it's not too crazy for you. And then, we have tons of people. Everybody's over on YouTube tonight, I guess. Let's see, we have Allison here and Marcia and Jean's here. I'm glad you're joining us too, Jean. Hey, Tina, and Jean is here from Ohio. Dolores is here. Oh my goodness, we have so many people. Sherry, I'm glad you're here live too. And Ramona and oh, so let's see, those were the can't hears us. And Nabuko's here. She says it's 10 a.m. in Japan. That's awesome. Do you have lovely weather? What's your weather like? And oh my goodness, Janice Carroll says 8 inches of snow and still snowing in Arizona. I'm very sorry about that. That doesn't sound super fun at all. And Allison said she played and played with her blocks and there are so many fun layouts. You're so right. We're going to look a little bit at that tonight. So I'm going to give you some ideas and different ways that you can do it. Jean says she's so far behind she'll never catch up. Jean, it's not a race. It's totally okay. The videos are going to be available for you to watch anytime. I'm not going to ever take them down. And so you can just, go at your own pace. There's no pressure. This is a no pressure zone here at Flamingo Toes. We definitely don't stress. And if we are stressing, then we just have a cup of tea and, just relax a little bit. Maybe read a book. It's all good. You'll catch up. It's fine. Martha said it's been a long time since she's done embroidery. Okay, you still got this, Martha. We're going to go over it next week, and it's going to be super fun. Okay, so every week I do a giveaway, and it's just my way of saying thank you guys for joining in and sewing along with us, and I really appreciate it. The giveaways are super easy to enter. All you have to do is leave a comment you can do it Facebook or YouTube. You can do it live or later in the week, and all those comments go in a random generator, conduit generator, and then it spits out a name, and that's our winner for the week. And so I announced the winner the following week. So last week we had a really fun giveaway. I have a 10-inch stacker of Hush Hush 2 for you. This is Riley Blake's second low volume collection, and the fabric on the front, I'll hold it up so you guys can see it. That is my Sweet Spools fabric. So it's made up of tiny little thread spools in different colors. And this is actually the background fabric that I'm using for my RBD Block Challenge box. So if you want to check those out, they're on my blog. You can just search RBD Block Challenge, or you can go to the most recent post and they're all linked there together. But in this collection, there are, how many? 21 different low volumes, and it's a little hard to see them on the screen there because they are low volumes, but they are all different and they're all darling and they look really good together. So what I like to do with a low volume, of course, I have no problem. I mean, I love using just a whole background of it like I'm doing with my RBD Block Challenge, but I also like using different low volumes in the same quilt. So you can kind of change up your blocks by using an assortment of low volumes, and it really gives your quilt a fun, dynamic texture. So just keep that in mind if you're thinking about changing up your backgrounds a little bit. So with the 10-inch stacker, which is the same as a layer cake, that's Hush Hush. Then I also have a box of my colorful vintage thread box from Aurifil. So this has 10 embroidery floss spools. They're 6-strand embroidery floss, and there are 18 yards on each spool. So tons of embroidery floss, and they all come in really bright, cute colors. So this is a fun box, and I just noticed before the video that my website was showing that my box is out of stock. I do have more, so I just need to update my website. I just got more in. So I will update that. If you are looking for embroidery to use next week that would go with your fabric, then maybe check that out. And then I also have a package of Lori Holt's Nifty Needles for you. These are her embroidery needles. She has several different varieties of Nifty needles. They're sewing and I don't know what they all are. Applique, I think. I don't know. There's many styles, but I really like the embroidery ones. They're very sturdy. They have like an aqua paint dipped end, I guess, so that the eye that you're threading is aqua, so it makes it easy to tell which end to thread, and it's a big enough eye that you don't have to struggle too much. So I carry these in my shop. I don't really carry anybody's products but my own, except for I do really like to recommend these embroidery needles. So if you're looking at getting some needles for next week, you can find these in my shop, and they're super reasonable. There's 18 in this pack, and they're a couple, I don't know how many different, 3 or 4 different sizes in there, so you can really feel like which one works best for your fabric and your hand. So that is last week's prize, and our winner was watching over on YouTube last week, and it is Erin Hopkins. Erin, if you're watching, congratulations. You can send me an email, bev@flamingotoes.com, and I will get your prize out to you this week. Just send me your mailing address. Super easy and fun. Okay, I have a really fun prize for you guys this week. And again, I'll announce the winner next week. And all you have to do is leave a comment on the video, and that's your entry. Oh, Lindy says she likes the spool fabric, and so does Dawn. Yay, thanks guys. All right, so this is a fun giveaway, you guys. I have three 5-inch stackers of blue jean fabric. This is Christopher Thompson's collection. Well, so he has a really pretty cheerfully red, I think it's cheerfully red or cheerfully red collection. So it's reds and whites. But you guys know how well he does with blues collections. I mean, they're all gorgeous. So this is the collection before Cheerfully Red. It's called Blue Jean. It even has like a really cool blue jean texture. Can you guys see the texture on that print? It looks denim, and it's so pretty. So this collection is made up of an assortment of blues, darks, mediums, really lights, and some grays. And it is gorgeous, you guys. It's so pretty. And I just love the added texture that the prints, several of the prints have to give it, it looks denim, but it's not. So it's super cozy and comfortable, but looks denim. So I have 3 of those blue jean stackers for you from Christopher Thompson. And I have for you one of my needle minder storage display boards. Sorry, y'all. Okay, so this is one of my notions through Riley Blake Designs. We worked together to develop this. It is a needle minder display board. So what it is it's a chalkboard that is also magnetic. So and it's got a really cool vintagey white frame, and then it has some little metal feet that you can magnetize to the back. And there's magnets on the back of the frame, and then the feet are metal. So you can set it on your work table horizontal, or you can set it vertical because there's magnets on the vertical end. Plus there's holes on the back. So if you'd rather hang it on the wall, you can do that. So the fun thing about this is it holds all your needle minders, so you can have a really cute little display, but you can also just decorate it for fun designs. I drew several fun designs when these first came out. You can find them on my Instagram page if you scroll back. I did like a main street, and then I did like a little house and different things, and I scattered my needle minders all around it. And the other thing that it's great for is notes, if you want to, make a list of your current patterns or whatever, or you can actually use the needle minder to hold your pattern in place on the board. So I like to keep one over by my sewing table, and then I can keep the pattern open and on my table, and I can easily see, and it's just magnetized right there. I don't have to worry about slipping down. So this is in my shop as well. If you want to check it out, I have them linked in today's video. And to go with that, I have a needle minder for you. So this is one of my newer needle minders. It's a little mason jar vase, so it's a mason jar full of flowers. I keep a mason jar on my counter by my kitchen sink, and I buy discount flowers every week from Kroger because after a little while they mark them down, and so they're super cheap, and it's just like a little fun way for me to kind of brighten up my kitchen with not a ton of expense. So so that's what I do, and so that's what this little needle minder is based on, is having flowers by my sink to brighten up my kitchen. So I have needle minder and the needle minder board, and then the 3 5-inch stackers of blue jeans. So all kinds of goodie prizes for you guys this week. Oh, I'm glad you guys like the needle binder. Oh, yay, and the needle minder board. That's so awesome. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you guys like them. All right, so keep in mind, if you don't win, the needle minder boards are in my shop. I'm a little bit low on stock, so if you're really wanting one, go ahead and get it. And I do have more in order, so I will be getting more in soon if they sell out really quickly. Okay, so Dorothy says she has her needle minders on her set of 3 tins that her son got her for Christmas 2021. That's awesome. So I had some cute canisters that came out a couple years ago, and they had little sewing designs. So Dorothy keeps hers on there. I have some upstairs in my other like storage room that I keep my needle minders on up there too. That's awesome. Oh, you guys are the sweetest. Okay, well, thank you so much. Are you ready to sew? Shall we sew? All right, let's sew. Okay, so let's look at this. This is our cute, let me get sorted here, y'all. This is our cute quilt top that we are making. Isn't it so fun? I love it. So last week we sewed up each of the blocks, and these are curved piece blocks. And if you've never done curves before, you can go check out last week's video. So I walk you through sewing these together. They are very gentle curves. And the nice thing about this quilt top is if you follow the layout that's in the book, the only curves that you have to match up are the 4 in the center. So if some of yours feel a little bit wonky, which that's totally okay, I guarantee you're going to be the only person that notices that, so don't stress out. If some of yours are a little wonky, kind of move them around in your layout and pick the 4 that look like they're going to match up the best. And put those 4 in the center and use that as the center of your quilt, because that is where we're going to put our embroidery wreath next week. So you want those, your eye is definitely going to go there to that center block, and because we're going to accentuate it with embroidery. So you want to try and get your seams as close as you can to lined up. Now, that being said, don't stress. Your eye is going to notice the embroidery more than the circle. So if you're not finding any that really match up perfectly, quilting fixes a lot of stuff. So don't worry too much. So this is our 16 blocks sewn together. It's very easy to sew this together. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but we are going to talk about different layouts and things. You're basically sewing them together like you would 5-inch stackers. You don't have to treat this any differently than you would just unpieced 5-inch pieces. Well, they're not 5 inches, but you know what I mean, like just squares, except for when you get to the center, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So I also wanted to tell you guys, I got one of these last week. This is during the week this week. It's an 18mm Olfa rotary cutter, and I practiced with it a little bit, and I used it to cut out my curved pieces, and I was really happy with it. So what I did was I cut out my designs like I showed you last week, except for the curved part. So we're gonna pretend the background's not on this piece. And then with just a couple layers there, I went ahead and just followed the line of my pattern with this smaller rotary cutter, and I felt like it worked really well. It followed the paper pattern really nicely. It would probably work even better if you printed out your pattern on like a cardstock or something like that, because you'd have less give in the paper. But because it's a little bit smaller of a rotary cutter, you have a little bit more control in a small area. So I have it linked to Fat Quarter Shop on today's video if you want to check it out. It's not super expensive. It is a little rotary blade, only 18 millimeters. So you can see when I move the guide back, sorry, I'll get down here a little bit. When I move the guide back, I'm going to turn up my mic just a little bit more so you guys can hear me. Hopefully that's okay. Is that better? When you move the guide back, you can see that there isn't a lot of blade that shows, so you don't want to stack up a bunch of fabric. I would probably only cut 2 at once, just because if you try and cut more than that, you're really going to be pushing through the fabric and you're not going to get a real accurate curve. So I was really happy with it. I wasn't sure if it would work. I wasn't sure if I would feel confident in getting a nice curve on it, but it really was great. So again, this is the Olfa 18 millimeter. If you want to check it out, I think it would work well for anything that you're cutting out small like that. So I'm really happy with it. Treva's here. Hey, Treva, welcome. So I have my pieces cut out. I have my border fabric. You need your background fabric that is like an inner sashing. All the measurements for that are in the book. And then you need your pieced blocks. So the way I have this laid out in the book is, I'm just going to kind of lay it out the way it is, and I'm going to pull mine over here so I can see what I'm doing so that I can play with it a little bit, is I just have them turned different directions. I don't know if we're going to be able to get all this on here or not, and I might have to play with my colors a little bit, but I'm just going to lay this out on my cutting mat so you can kind of see how it goes together. It doesn't want to shimmy over there. So I'm going to, well, I probably wouldn't do that. So there is several different ways that you can lay this out. So I'm starting kind of build that center arch here. And this one goes like this, but you don't have to lay it out this way. There are plenty of options. I'm just kind of gonna scooch this up a little bit so you guys can see. Plenty of options for layout. I want to get them all 4 on there, and then we're gonna start playing with it a little bit. Now I'm gonna overlap them because I don't have a whole lot of space. And this one can go here. And so what I've kind of done is created almost like little areas where the background fabric kind of point to each other. But again, that is totally optional and up to you as far as how you want it to go. So it's kind of mirrors, like this top half of the quilt mirrors the bottom half of the quilt. But you can play with that. So another option, if you don't want to add your embroidery, you could flip these center pieces like this and make 4 circles. I just really recommend you playing with your design a little bit once you get your blocks all made and looking and seeing like, okay, maybe I want to do something different. Maybe you're really ambitious and you want to put embroidery in all 4 of your circles if you want to. You don't have to, of course. You can keep your center circle the same, like this, and then keep these pieces kind of shaped like this so that there's like 3/4 circles around each side. Or you can kind of really turn it all wonky like this, turn all the circles out and have half circles on the sides. So it's a really fun block that you can have a lot of fun with and a lot of freedom with. You definitely do not have to make your block, your mini quilt, look just like mine. So this one's fun because it sort of cuts these designs out on each of the sides. If I did this one, I would probably rotate this one in so that all the corners were a little more colorful. So it looked something like that. But you can see where I'm going with this in that you have a lot of choices and you have a lot of options for laying out your cute little design. Erin just got here. Erin, you're the winner this week of this week's giveaway. So yay, Erin. Definitely send me an email, okay? So I'm going to turn these back together and I'm going to go ahead and do this one laid out the way it is in the book because I like it the best. So I'm just going to kind of flip these around until they are back where they go. So what I did with the piecing of this is I went ahead and chain pieced the entire thing together. So I picked up these 4 and I sewed these like basically together in a column, and then I opened it out and sewed these 4 in place and then these 4, so that I had little chain piecing threads at each intersection here where my blocks went. Then it made it very easy to take to my cutting board and, or my cutting board, not my cutting board, my mat, my ironing board. Thank you. I knew board was in there somewhere. And press to one side. And then, so you press like all of your rows opposite each other. So this row would get pressed to the left or right, this would get pressed to the left. It doesn't matter which way you start, just so that they're opposite each other. And that way, when you take each row, you can sew them together and those seams will nest. So easy peasy to do. I am just going to sew tonight these 4 center blocks together so that you can see how I match up my seams. So I'm gonna take those over to my sewing machine. I'm all over the place with the cutting mats and the sewing machines and the ironing boards. Y'all are so patient with me. I appreciate you very, very much. Okay, let's go sew. Okay, hello. So now what we have over here, and you guys know that I like to do this, is I kind of set up my cutting table, or my, I did it again. I set up my sewing machine table so that I have my block laid out the way I want it to go. And that way I've kind of double checked that it's correctly aligned. It's so easy. You guys know we've done it a bajillion times to, mix up a block. But if you're kind of laying it out once and laying it out on your machine, you're checking to make sure that it works and before you sew it together. So really what you can do this a couple different ways. These blocks I pressed to the dark side, but because it's a curve, you can press them either direction. So before pressing, once you have your layout kind of figured out, like we talked about last week, pick your layout and snap a photo of it. Then press these opposite each other. So you would press this one to the print side and then this one to the background side. And then when you do that, your blocks will nest together, and kind of do it this way too, kind of do it opposite each other. But you don't have to do that. You can lay your blocks together like we're going to sew them together, and then just do kind of a full back check. Okay, so that's about where I want those 2 blocks to line up. I can see that it should be pretty straight, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra insurance, and I'm going to put my pin through right inside that seam on one and right inside the seam on the other, so that when I do line these 2 up and I've got my pin in place, I know that that pin's going to hold the 2 together where they should go. So I'm going to go ahead and sew those together. And I'm going to remove that pin when I get to it. And then without cutting my thread, I'm just going to kind of stop, and I'm going to do the same thing with these 2 pieces. So I'm going to place them right sides together, and I'm just going to do a fold back and check at the seam. Yep, that one looks pretty good. And it does help that, I have a darker print fabric and a light background so that I can kind of pin through, feel that I have background. I haven't pinned through the seam at all. So I know that those are going to line up really well and go ahead and sew. So I'm just going to keep sewing. And now my pieces are chain pieced. And that was what I was talking about before, is I would just do this for all the blocks at the same time, but you don't really need to pin any unless you are matching up where those curves are. Janice Carroll said she set hers differently. She's going to embroider in all the light pie pieces. Well, that's super exciting, Janice. I can't wait to see that. So now you can see, if it plays nicely here, that my seams at where they met up here and where they met down there are pretty close enough for me anyway. So now let's go over and press these in place. Okay, so I'm gonna move this stuff to the side so we can do some pressing. And I better start my iron again because it turned off on me. Okay. So now we have our pieces ready to press. This is what we just sewed, and it looks so cute, right? So now I'm going to turn them over, and I'm gonna kind of just do this from the side, but I'm going to do these opposite each other. And when I do the entire quilt together, I will keep them pressed in the same direction. So in this row, I will press these two blocks, up, and these two blocks down. So I'm just gonna hit this with a little bit of spray starch, and then I'm going to press these, and I'm pressing one block opposite the other. If you feel like you're having a bit too much bulk at each of these seams because there are, 4 fabrics there, you can press them open. It's not going to be a problem to do that. So I pressed to the front, to the side, and now I'm on the front side, and I'm going to give these a press. So just kind of get it nice and flat. And then we have our pieces. So doesn't that look so cute? So now we can see, well, you can see because the background fabric is showing through, that I am going to go ahead and sew this together. We're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to sew these two right sides together. So for this one, you can just decide how much you like to use pins. Because this, I don't always use pins, but because this is going to be the center kind of highlight of my quilt, I am using pins even at the center seam where those seams are nesting. It would probably be fine, but I don't want to take any chances of having those not line up in the center. So I am just going to use 3 pins, and it doesn't take too long to take the extra time to pin it. But now I've got all 3 places where a seam meets up pinned and ready to sew. So we're going to just do a quick seam. I do take the pins out as I sew them, before I sew over them, because these are a little bit bigger pins. These are my cat head pins with Riley Blake Designs. I have cute cats and I have cute campers. Here's the campers. Can you guys see those? Cute campers. But they are a very sturdy pin, which I love. But that also means that I do not want to sew over it because I would like to not break my needles. That's not a good idea or a good time for anybody. Oops, forgot to cut my thread here. Okay, so now we've sewn that center seam, and you can see how well everything lines up. And, it takes 2 seconds to add those pins in, but once you do, you have your very pretty little circle all formed and ready to go. So let's go take a look at the rest of this. Okay, so now we have our center, and you can just press this to one side. Again, if you're feeling like there's quite a bit of bulk, you can go ahead and press your seams open if you would like, but it should be fine. You're not going to have any problem embroidering over that. And here's your cute little center. So once I'm going to shimmy some things around here again. Once you have your blocks all sewn together, the rest of the mini quilt goes together very quickly, because all you need to do, let me turn it this way, is you need to sew your side sashing, which is your background fabric on each side, and then top and bottom. And then you'll do the same thing with your print fabric, which is going to be your border. Now, if you feel like these are small borders, they're cut not super big, but feel free to cut your borders a little bit larger if you like, and then trim them down. I do sometimes like to do that when I'm going to quilt it, which is almost every time, because it gives you a little bit more of an accurate size. So if you want to, add an extra 1/4 of an inch to your borders, and then once you've quilted it, trim it down to the size you want it, and that makes everything really nice and clean. You don't have to worry about your borders being wonky or anything like that, especially when they're a thinner border, if you cut them a little bit larger. So that's all there is to sewing together the quilt top. It's very easy, right guys? Okay, so if you guys have any questions with any of that, let me know. Next week will be a little bit of a, I don't know if it'll be a longer video. We'll dive right in. I'm gonna go over the transferring, and we're gonna go over the 3 embroidery stitches, satin stitching, back stitching, and French knots. And so we're gonna do that real quick. We'll go over each of them, and I'm gonna show you how to do them, but I also have full video tutorials for each of those stitches. So if you feel like you need to watch more in-depth teaching about those, I have those videos for you to check out as well. So I can't wait to see your quilt tops. Sew them together, post photos in the Facebook group or on Instagram. We all want to see them, and don't worry about your curves. Nobody's are perfect. I guarantee you, if you looked at mine super closely, you would see that it's not perfect either. So we don't worry about perfection around here. So post your quilt tops. We can't wait to see what they look like, and have fun with that layout if you want to. There's some really creative ways that you can do that. Don't feel like you have to stick to the layout in the book. I hope you guys are enjoying this sew along, and hope you're having fun trying curves for the first time, and maybe even embroidery for the first time. And if you have any questions, you can always email me or tag me in the comments, and I'm happy to help out. So hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I will see you. I'm gonna have a heart pillow tutorial going up on Friday. It's gonna be really fun. I wasn't sure if I was going to put it up, but then everybody on Monday convinced me that hearts are still okay to do. So even though we're past Valentine's Day, so I'm going to put that up on Friday. That will be a free heart pillow. I hope you guys like it. And then I'll be back Monday with our Country Daisy sew along. We're having a blast doing that as well. So if you are just joining in with this sew along and only joining this one, that's cool. I will see you next Wednesday. Everybody have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much, everybody.